Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. Today we have Ricardo with us, who had done the Inclusive Leadership Lab in, I believe, 2021, if I'm not mistaken. Ricardo, do you mind introducing yourself? Tell us what you do.
Yes, thank you so much, Nila, for inviting me to this. So yes, my name is Ricardo Correa. I am an endocrinologist by training. I work at the University of Arizona College of Medicine in Phoenix and the Phoenix VA. Being there, certain things, the program director for the fellowship, but also the director for diversity and graduate medical education. We're very excited to be part of the cohort of 2021 of the lab and sharing the experience among the members, the networking that we establish, and the changes that we want to bring after the lab finish.
Tell us a little bit about how your experience was in the lab.
Yes, so basically it was a very interesting experience in the sense that it was the theoretical and practical part was a complement. So first we have two amazing moderators or speakers that they were guiding us during the entire time in the lab. Or coaches, probably you can call it better, that they were guiding during the entire lab. So having topics on things that I have a lot of interest, like gender disparities and how to make your women colleagues more involved in the academic environment, and then having that practical part, because after the day of the event, then you have an opportunity they give you homework. And then you have to do that. Most likely sometimes was even with your family. So I was doing that with my spouse or doing that at work to see how it works, that homework that it was telling, and then coming the next time and sharing the experience that you have with that homework that you were doing during that time. Besides, I think all of this was the relationship among the rest of the group. So we were 8 in total. So the relationship of the 8 and how you were able to be in a safe space and share your experience and see what is happening. And nobody was looking at you. You say something bad or correct. That was not the point. The point was sharing your experience and how can you be an ally and how can you change the world or your world, instead of thinking. Sometimes we think in big picture, but sometimes it's better just to think in our world. And that was very interesting about the lab. So multiple experience, learning from others, learning from the coaches, and doing the homeworks were really interested and an amazing opportunity.
Okay, great. So I heard you say that sounds like it affected multiple parts of your life, your personal life, as well as your professional life. And it was sort of a judgment-free zone is kind of what I heard you say, where you can grow, but in a judgment-free way, which is really amazing. I feel like we hardly ever get to do that in other parts of life. So that's really good. And then you had 2 coaches, and it really just sounds like you got a lot of different types of experiences with it. Also got some homework, even when you were outside of the lab. What do you think, how do you think you show up differently as a leader after having done the Inclusive Lab?
Yes. So one of the things is understanding different situations. And that was something that I realized. So I was coming from the part of the very academic setting, and hearing others, they're coming from another parts. I think that majority of them were in academia, but hearing at different parts, I have not been in a really a leadership role, like director of a division or something like that, but there were directors of divisions or chief medical officer, people at very higher level. Hearing how they handle things definitely was a teaching moment for me, because that's the pathway that I want to get. So learning from them was really good, because if something in the future present like that, I know how to handle. So having this constant conversation and not just the professional part, but as you mentioned, in the personal part, and understanding how can you be an ally, and sometimes that I was doing probably in my personal life, realizing that probably was not correct. That is a personal growth. In the professional part, I think that I have been always trying to be an ally, but sometimes it's limited because of your level in your organization. And then in this lab, really, I learned that it doesn't matter what level do you have a lot of power because you have a voice in the table sometimes that others don't have it. And then that helped me a lot also in growing professional. Now I'm more implementing these kind of things as the director of diversity. Gender diversity is one of them. So I'm trying to implement the things that I learned to programs that I'm establishing for resident fellows.
Do you have an example at all of one of the things that you've been able to implement, whether it's something small or big that you learned from the lab or that you heard someone else say?
Yes, so one of the things is that I heard from the lab was sometimes is judging by the clothes that you come to work, and then that happened a lot of times, probably not in the place that I work, but in prior things that I have been involved in organizations. And then usually there is this difference between male and females, and the females, if they come to work certain things, is the one that get more criticized. So now raising the voice during that during those moments to the person that is making those comments, it's something important that I was not really think about in the past, because it's things that happen. But now I'm a lot more aware. And if I'm in a meeting, I have not been able to experience this a lot also because it's the virtual world.
Yeah.
So we have not been able to be, but now if I'm in a meeting and I hear like, hey, oh, what a nice clothes, blah, 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 in certain ways, then I will be more aware and say, hey, this is not the time, or talk to that person by the side. So he other things is basically having in at work, what I has been able to do more is to promote those women colleagues to be part of the leadership that in the part that I'm involved. I'm a program director. One of my 8 associate program directors is a woman, and then I try just to get her more and more involved in multiple things, and that I think that it's been an ally. It's just helping the ones that probably has been underrepresented in certain times, and then giving them the opportunity to do things, and showing this to also the residents and fellows that really things are changing now. The proportion of women and males in medicine is different. So but telling them that everybody can grow and that we need to grow in that area. Of course, as we need to grow in other areas, as we need to grow other underrepresented minorities in medicine. So trying to apply that, I think that has been very important.
Great. So I heard you say modeling. So you've had people model for you, and you're also trying to model for the residents. You talked about creating sponsorship. So some of the people that you're trying to create opportunities for, so creating sponsorship for them. And then I have to tell you, I actually got goosebumps at the idea that somebody would stand up for, it sounds like you've learned to become more aware of some of the things that are happening that we're often just completely not even aware of. And the idea that somebody would, especially a man, would stand up and say something when somebody is commenting on a physical appearance for a woman makes me really excited to know that that's something that people would start to do. So I got some goosebumps when you said that, which is really, I'm excited at that opportunity as well. What about anything from the lab that you felt like was either really surprising, or where you were surprised about yourself, that you learned about yourself through the lab?
So I think that something surprising in my case is probably I'm in a niche where really to certain point has been very inclusive of everybody, of gender difference, of race, ethnicity difference, and being in that niche keep you in a form that you really don't think that things like that happen, like discrimination against gender happen, or in unequal payment happen. So you just keep in that you keep in that niche, everything is happy. But then being in the lab is hearing from other people in different environments how this is still happening. So I usually give lectures on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I say, well, this is, but really personal experience on that kind of discrimination, besides certain small things, it's not something that I was so aware. But then I know that it exists. It's people that tell you, but now in this lab, like hearing the stories of the others, was very impactful and changed many of the things that I am doing now. So hearing those stories now, I can say I know somebody that stand up, or I know somebody that changed the contract of a higher person because of gender disparities and things like that. That I think that is something that I take from the lab. It was the conversations that we have, not the formal lectures but the conversation that we have that enrich a lot the experience in the lab.
And so it made it more personal. It wasn't just stories, or you think that maybe it could happen, but it actually, you heard personal experiences from people that it happened to them. So you can't ignore it anymore because it's real. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Anything else that you want to say about the lab that you think is important for people to know?
Yeah, so I think that these hours on a Saturday, I know that it's on a Saturday, but these hours on a Saturday was a relaxing time, because you were able to share your experience, learn from others, and in a way that nobody judged you. And sometimes a part of the group or myself, we have done things that we didn't know that was bad until we came to this lab. And then when they ask you things and they say, well, yeah, in the homework, I approach this situation, this, and they're like, are you sure that was the best way to approach? And they're like, and then hearing from others, like, I will approach this way. And so that was an interesting, there was no judgment. It was more conversation, as we talk about. It was more a learning process. And I still think that we have a lot more to learn. This is not the end after you finish the lab, but at least I think it's the beginning of that process of making aware of difference and trying to solve that difference. And as I mentioned at the beginning, trying to get something from that lab, and then started to change your small world that will contribute at the end to changing the big world.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And again, you're echoing more awareness, judgment-free zone. It sounds like maybe being able to actually be allowed to make mistakes and then get feedback and be able to do it in a non-judgmental way so that you can keep growing and you can keep getting better and create more of a difference. So that all sounds great. Ricardo, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope that we'll see some more people enroll in the lab. I've heard nothing but great things. So thanks so much for your time, and I hope everyone has a good day.